Hello, Mr. Oupa, Laka.
Hi, good afternoon from South Africa.
Oh, thanks. Amazing. Amazing to hear you here on GABAC. Please,
Yeah.
feel free to start your to talk to everyone in Africa and also around the world. I'm here from Brazil and also send a good morning and God bless you.
All right. Thank you. Um, can you just confirm if you have my slides on that side and then I'll control them from here?
No, I can't
Otherwise,
see any
okay.
slides now. No, no, no. But maybe it is starting now. Oh, amazing,
Awesome.
amazing. Feel free to
Okay.
start.
All right, thank you very much. Like I said, good afternoon out here in South Africa. It is the afternoon. We're very close to the evening. I'm very honored to be part of GABAC once more. It is a privilege and an honor to be speaking to professionals from all over the world. And as I go through this, I'd appreciate if you just hit in the chat, say, hey, from wherever you are dialing in from. And I may just ask some questions so it's going to be a little bit interactive, more than me just giving you information and more information and more information. All right. So just to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Oupa Laka, and I've been practicing business analysis for a little over 15 years now. I just don't have the exact number, but somewhere there. And primarily, I have worked in financial services, in banking, as well as in insurance, long-term insurance, short-term insurance, health insurance, etc. And I transitioned between multiple roles throughout my career from product support to product development. And I've also held some management and leadership roles throughout my career. And after all that time, that's when now I founded a company right here in South Africa called Akili, where I'm the founder and I'm the consultant, and I'm still practicing as a business analysis consultant with different organizations wherever there may be a need. Okay, so what I want us to look at today. Right. I just want us to look at a little bit on the context of where we are as Africa and so on and so forth. And then just look at where does business analysis play a role in all of this. Okay, then we'll go into a little bit on the tools and techniques that we can employ when we try to look for solutions that have a sustainable impact. And some practical tips that I'm going to share with you, and hopefully you can also share with me, and then perhaps we can chat on the way forward. Then what now? Now that we know all about this, then what about from here on? Where do we go? So I'd like to talk a little bit about what I term as the African opportunity. Right now, Africa is experiencing one of the most dynamic shifts, probably of any region in the world. Okay, there is rapid urbanization. We have a young and expanding workforce. There's a booming digital economy. And there's a very increasing global interest right now. I'm not sure if you've noticed. Everyone wants to come to Africa. Like, yeah, well, of course, that's where life began, and therefore we can welcome you home. But what are they here for? What are they seeing that perhaps we might be missing? See, all these opportunities might be there. And while they might be there, yeah, we do have some challenges as well. Challenges such as some infrastructure gaps that we can see. I mean, we don't have road paved all throughout the continent in all the countries. We don't have railway lines that can connect to one another the way that they should. I mean, even our airspace, it's quite daunting to travel from one African country to another African country. It's even much more easier to travel from here to Europe or even to Australia, far, far away. And these are some of the challenges that we have to consider. You see, the opportunities that we have as a continent are matched by all these complex challenges. There are governance gaps and infrastructure strained, and we have fragmented markets all throughout. And there is this other niggling problem. We have this persistent loss of talent to the diaspora. And to navigate this landscape, I believe that Africa needs more than just ambition. We need clarity, we need structure, and we need systems thinking. And this is the very essence of business analysis. See, business analysis is not just some corporate function where you have a job title and you get a salary from there. I strongly believe that it is a catalyst for sustainable development, where we can help organizations and government institutions to solve the right problems, design inclusive solutions, and create value that lasts. And let's talk about this. I mean, what are BAs good at? Well, BAs are good at so many things. Sometimes I think that BAs are like contortionists. You can just twirl like this and roll yourself up like that, come out on the other side still alive and well. But just three key things that I want us to consider this. Are we not good at eliciting and analyzing stuff? Call it requirements, call it data, whatever the case may be. And by this, we have to be engaging with different stakeholders that are coming wearing different hats and they're coming with different interests. And we can navigate this quite with some finesse, if I may say. Another thing that we're good at is after having engaged the stakeholders and moving from left to right and listening to this one who wants their stuff to be done as at yesterday, which is impossible, but we can go back and synthesize and we can map the business processes, looking at, hey, in this process, where are some efficiencies? Where are some inefficiencies? Where are potential improvements that we can start working on? And man, for us to be able to do this, we've got to be good with facilitating. We facilitate conversations where there might be conflict. Sometimes it's not necessarily a conflict resolution thing. We facilitate workshops. We facilitate requirements elicitation sessions. Sometimes they are online, sometimes they're in person. And these are some of the things that we are currently good at. Now, where am I getting at with all of this? Other than these, I'm pretty certain you can go onto the chat and you can start putting what are some of the other things that you believe that business analysts are really good at. Now, why do I believe that business analysis matters for Africa's next leap? See, because we know how to facilitate really well, we can align strategies with local realities. I mentioned earlier that you can see that there's such a huge interest on the continent. There are many companies that have never probably set foot here, they've never set up shop here, but now suddenly they're realizing there's so much potential. But they may come with their own ideas, preconceived ideas of how things may be. Now, us as business analysts, we can go to them, we can engage with them, facilitate sessions to try and understand what is it that they are trying to achieve and why is it that they want to achieve that. They may come with solutions that are pre-packaged, only to find that when you come to us, man, we are so complex. Because as Africa, we are so heterogeneous in the way that we are structured. Also, if you're in the US, heterogeneous is heterogeneous. Just so that you understand what I'm talking about. We're really not the same. We have different ways of doing things, and without understanding the local context, that can be quite a challenge. And man, because we know how to facilitate and how to elicit information from people, we can be best positioned to transform complexity into opportunity. There may be certain things that are out there, challenges that are out there that seem to be so complex. But because we are trained to look at what is there, synthesize it, try and simplify it, and make sure that the stakeholders are aligned, we can use our tools and techniques in order to draw this information such that whatever seems complex may ultimately start looking like we can see the opportunities from there. And I also believe that as business analysts, we are well poised to bridge the gap between the public and the private sector. I mean, the public sector, yeah, it can be quite challenging, and I know that it's not just on the African continent, but worldwide, it looks like the public sector, it's full of rules and red tape, and you name it in there. You get stuck in a rut, and you can't really move on as far as you can. And on the other hand, you have the public sector, the private sector, who is looking at innovating, moving fast, beating competition, and for us to be able to bring these two together, that's where now our facilitation comes into play, and we can help these entities actually move forward very confidently. So I'm just looking at, hey, there are some tools and techniques that we have in our arsenal, and boy, do we have a lot of tools and techniques. Okay, we have context and strategy analysis tools and techniques. We have process and efficiency tools and techniques. We have some data and performance management tools and techniques. We have some institutional governance that sometimes we get involved in, and we have technology and innovation that we can tap into. Okay, now, while we have all of these, you might be thinking now, where in the world am I going to utilize all of this? Where do I get to find myself considering context and strategy analysis? Employing pestle and the likes of SWOT and stakeholder analysis and stakeholder mapping. Where in the world am I going to employ process efficiency, business process modeling, which is something that I believe a lot of us use quite often, and doing the gap analysis, the five whys. So let's consider some cases together. All right. And while I'm going through these cases, I want you to consider in your own context where you might see yourself employing these. Now, one innovation that I love so much about that comes from Africa, the continent itself, is that of digital payments. The way that we managed to get even an older lady to understand how to use a mobile phone to move money from their own pocket to somebody else's pocket. A young person understands very well how that is. And between the different entities, a shop owner, a farmer, you name it, that money can move about like that. I can't imagine any other continent or somewhere in the world where it has been so great. But you see, I have worked in an organization, a bank at some point, and it was taken over by one of the big banks in the world. So they came to my country, South Africa, and they saw how well this bank was performing, and they bought a major stake in the bank. So they came like we've been around for hundreds of years, and they probably thought that their systems are just gonna come in, plug in, and work. And oh boy, were they so desperately mistaken. Because the payments landscape in South Africa is very complex and quite advanced. And I like to joke that that happens because, hey, listen, crime is also a career for some people. So there are some innovative ways that have had to be built into the payment systems on here. While that bank came, they were here for several years, and after a while, they packed up shop. Not only did they pack up shop in South Africa, but in the whole of Africa as a continent, because they realized that what they have and what they were trying to plug into, those things do not actually match. But can you imagine if somebody did proper business analysis and looked at, for example, employing something like Pestle? What's the political view of the people? What's their world view? So that whatever we come up with, either we customize it or we build something new that will actually be of benefit, not only for the bank, but also for the community that they are serving. Now, can you see where this thing can come into play? Did somebody actually sit down and look at the entire process and say, okay, we see that this is how they do certain things. This is very strange to us. And because of that, perform some gap analysis in between. I believe that if they had done things, those things that we call basic, they probably might have succeeded and they may have still had a major stake right now, but they packed up and left. I want to look at another case study. Right now in South Africa, I mean, there is danger of what we call day zero. There is water shortages that are popping up here, there, and everywhere. And this has happened for a variety of factors, including political interference, but mainly maintenance that was not done properly. Now, can you imagine if there was, a team of business analysts that looked at this thing and said, what can we do in order to understand what the actual problem is? Looking at the five whys, doing that fishbone diagram and say, where might we be having a problem and what could the possible causes be, whether it's people, whether it's platforms, whether it's machinery, whether whatever it may be. And based on that, start looking at what are the possible solutions that we can bring together. So now, can you see how business analysis now moves out of corporate into actually affecting the livelihood of people? And we also have an issue. I mentioned earlier that, one of the challenges we have is that talent from the continent is moving across the world, and which is great. And at the same time, it actually is a bit of a problem for those that are left behind. Who is going to come up with those expertise and help to build our countries to be where we want them to be? But you see, I think if we employ something like personas and user journeys to understand why this is quite a trend and how we can reverse it, that's where the business analyst can add so much value to retaining talent and making sure that whatever the private and public sector gets involved in, they can look at things more holistically than just looking at we want a project and it must be done. Once the project has been signed off and it's in production, check, we move on. Now, I'm interested to hear from you, man. Think about some of these things and look at where do you think you can employ it in your business analysis journey. Now, if anyone is running an organization of any sort, be it a religious organization like a church or a mosque, a temple, whatever it may be, or you're running a consulting company like I do, or you're running a big organization, or you have a seat at the table at a big organization. I would like to challenge us to look at this and say, listen, business analysis is not just some role that's put in there and yeah, that's it. So I'm challenging organizations to look at it more differently and say, we need to invest in business analysis capability. Let us not be so obsessed with the job title itself. Okay, it sounds fancy. Yeah, I'm a business analyst. Okay, so what do you do? And then you start thinking, okay, what don't I do? Because we do so much that it's very difficult to have one sentence of what we actually do. And maybe you have an answer to that. Hey, if somebody asks you, whether it's at a barbecue or as we call it, a braai or a family dinner or something like that, and say, hey, what does a business analyst do? You can maybe put it in the chat and tell me what is it that they do. All right. So I say let's invest in business analysis capability, regardless of the title, the job title, or the role that a person is playing, because we have so much to offer. And if we infiltrate the organizations that we employ our practice in, can you imagine how much better they may become? And I would like to challenge and say, can we standardize some frameworks? I remember when I started off, I mean, I depended on templates for me to be able to do my work. And that was because I didn't know where to start. And that also helps. Now, imagine if we say organizations invest in BA capabilities and someone said, okay, I need to do something like, I don't know, stakeholder interview. Where do I start? Now, if you have a template for them, you see how this might help. So over time, I started employing my own templates and actually developing them, sharing them with people. I did not make them proprietary because you get to realize there are certain things that are applicable in certain contexts and constructs, and other things are important here and not important there. And with that, when I share with somebody, they're like, oh, okay, maybe this is something that I might have missed. The other thing that I think we must focus on is embracing on data and AI literacy. I put in there AI deliberately because we can be so embroiled in data. And sometimes data can be quite a scary thing for some people. Like, data, I don't want to do that. But come on, man, think about this. What is data? I would explain it in simple terms and say it is information that an organization requires to be able to perform certain things like processes so they can provide a service or they can provide a product. Now, if that is the case, then there's information everywhere. It just needs to be structured nicely, and then we can call it data for that matter. And then when it comes to artificial intelligence, we shouldn't be terrified of it. I was actually quite excited this morning. I saw one of the government institutions right here in South Africa said that they are offering free data literacy courses for young people. I was like, yes. It's like they saw my slides, but I'm so glad that that's happening. If that happens all over the case, to say, guys, data is what we're going to be dealing with all the time. If we are to employ solutions, we need to gather data. Even if the solution is more, how can we make sure that we have water tanks or water pumps or reservoirs that are functioning properly? You still need data that needs to be amassed. But if you don't understand how that works, that's a problem. As for artificial intelligence, can we please not be scared of it? Do you remember back in the 80s and 90s, those of us who were alive, when somebody called you at home and you were not around? There would be a machine that answers the phone in your voice, in your tone, in your humor, if you have any. And they would say, hi, this is, you've reached Opa's house. I'm currently not available. Why don't you leave a message? Uh, well, where are we now? Look at what happens when you start using artificial intelligence. It starts even preempting how you may respond based on what it has learned about you. But more so, we need to be more literate than just using it to get some outputs. We need to get to a point whereby we are actually informing what kind of outputs AI should be producing. That means we need to understand how things work at the back end of these AI tools and all that. And that without understanding data can be quite problematic. That's why I'm saying let's embrace data and AI literacy as we move on. Another thing that organizations should do. Can we please stop pushing products and services to customers? Let's rather co-create with them. I've mentioned that for us as Africans, I know that for us in South Africa, we are so different depending on which tribe you come from. And even if you're from this tribe, you're from this area, the way that we look at things is quite different. Now, can you imagine if we start co creating solutions for problems that people actually have, needs that communities actually have? Can you imagine how we can create something that's not only going to be valuable now, but it will also be valuable for generations to come? And I would say that based on some of the challenges that we have, we need to start designing considering that we do have certain constraints. The constraints might just be we can't move our cargo from here to here because when you get there, the highway is just going to take the truck and put it wherever. Oh, we don't have a railway system that's interconnected. Then what do we do with all this cargo? So we need to design knowing that we have these constraints and we have to use our BA tools and techniques to navigate those challenges along with our customers who may be a private entity, who may be a public entity. So we can actually do make sure that we give solutions that will not only add value now, but add value in a sustainable manner. Okay, so I just want to look at some methodologies. We love methodologies, don't we? Yeah, I'm agile. Yeah, well, we are agile. I was like, oh, well, we are fragile. We don't even know where we are. It's either we are this or we are that. But I'm saying because of these technological advancements that we're seeing, things like digital payments, digital music and music sharing and platforms and all of that, why don't we look at employing agile methodologies for this? Because then we can design something, build it, test it, get a little bit of an MVP out there and see how can we improve it, and then we keep growing it like that. But we also know that we have certain institutions like government institutions. If you work for a government institution, I'm not here to attack you. I just understand that it's tough because it's highly politicized. That's where now we have to look at some hybrid models. Okay. We have to spend the time looking at the long term and understanding all the procurement that needs to go through, the other person that needs to sign off, that's forever in a meeting. And when we have that, then we say, okay, how can we make sure that we're building solutions in an iterative manner after understanding the big thing? That's why now we'll merge agile and we'll merge a waterfall at the same time. Call it agile, call it fragile, call it whatever, but the hybrid model can actually work when you start working with government institutions. And I say we must start embracing design thinking. It's not just a UX concept. Okay, UX is user experience. I'm sorry, in case you don't know what that is. So we as BAs, we have to start actually elevating ourselves to the point whereby we are considering what's known as service design. Okay, we are offering a service, we are offering a product, so we have to look at the end to end, those processes, the value chains, and all of that, and say how can we involve the people that we are going to be providing the service or product for, and involve the people that are going to be doing the support once this thing goes live, and co-create this thing together so that in the end you find that you have actually amassed more than you had expected. Somebody in an organization might say, I think we need to solve this problem. It looks like it's a problem. You, as a BA, come in and then you apply all those tools and techniques and you find, okay, this is a real problem. We can actually do it. But how can we solve it? Can you imagine when you bring different people who are wearing different hats and you co create solutions with them? And there are different options that you can try out. So, design thinking is one thing that I think we need to embrace very well as business analysts. And in all of these things, we must always take into account systems thinking. For the sake of governance, you can't just be looking at one thing and zooming in only on that thing. How does this thing that you're zooming in actually apply to the whole, whatever product or service? So we have to be able to be let what's known as T-shaped. You have to go deep enough to understand what's happening, and you have to be wide enough to look at the impact across the value chain, across the organization. And I'd like to hear from you. What other methodologies do you think as BAs we can apply considering the challenges that Africans have, regardless of where in the continent you may be? What are those tools? What are the techniques? What methodologies do you think can work in which situations? You can put all of that in the chat. All right. And now we can say, but we are scattered all over the world. How are we supposed to do this? Ah, man, I don't have to tell you. Like right now, I don't even know where you're actually calling in from. Okay, and it doesn't matter. Earlier on, I was speaking to somebody who's in Brazil. There's someone else here who's from Jamaica, man. Love you very much. And people are dialed in from all over the world. If you consider it, hey, listen, we've got tools that we can use right now. You know, Jira, Azure DevOps, Trello. Maybe if you don't, Google them, learn about them, because that's where we can track what it is that we're doing and what needs to be done next. And we can add comments. And the nice thing is that because it's online, even if somehow you have insomnia and this thing is bothering you, you can wake up and update it before you even have a meeting the next day. And we can learn tools like Power BI, Tableau, even Excel can be powerful. Just today, earlier on, I was like, oh, I just built a dashboard in Excel. I haven't done that in forever. And that's how powerful the tools we have are. Okay, we have Google Workspace, we have Microsoft 365 that we can use to work together regardless of our location all around the world. And there are many other tools. You know them. Which tools do you use to make sure that you're efficient and effective in the work that you do? All right. Now, let's go very quickly into some practical tips that I believe will drive growth for Africa in a sustainable way. Can we start considering localizing things? Localize the language. And sometimes, I know for us, there are certain words that are supposedly English words, but we use them whichever way that it makes sense to us, and we couldn't care less. So if you're providing a solution or a product for somebody like that who uses certain words in a certain way, how about you localize the language? That would be quite a challenge to consider, right? And while you do that, you train the AI to understand that context as well so that you can be able to build better next time. Let's look at our user interfaces. Even the onboarding, it might be different for all of us because some of us are technologically oriented, others are not so much. So we have to consider all of these things. All right. Consider that across the continent there are challenges of bandwidth. Some places you don't have as much bandwidth as you would. So whatever that it is that you're designing, make sure that USSD is still a solution. Or if it uses data, it has to be on a web page. Make sure that that thing can be optimized so that it works regardless of where you are. You don't have to be in a high-speed internet area for your solution to work. And I'm saying, listen, let's plan for informal markets. I mean, these ones are always very fascinating. Cash is still king all across the continent. And I love that for us. Okay, so you may say, no, digital payments, all that good. Yeah, we can do digital payments, but cash still works. How are you going to make sure that your solution or your product or your service can still cater for those people who prefer to use cash more than these electronic payments? There are informal distribution networks that are all over the place where people don't necessarily hire a company that's going to move things from here to there and they use the data. Can we learn about them and see how we can provide solutions for them? And that one thing that's important, let's engage the chiefs and the community leaders. These are actual local influencers. They wield such a great influence. Okay. So if you want to provide a solution for a community, and you have to find out, is there a chief? Are there community leaders? These are the people that will help you with success because they can influence where the direction which this project can actually go. But if you don't engage them, man, they might just look at you and sabotage your project. Remember the stakeholder mapping? You need to have these people in mind when you do that. And we have to build sustainability into our use cases. Okay. We love our environment. We've always been environmentally sustainable as Africans. That's why, we can build hearts that last forever. Okay. So let's look at the environmental, the economic, and the social constructs whenever we build use cases. Let's not just look at the bottom line, but consider the ESG in everything that we do. And as we go through all of this, let us capture the lessons. And as we continually learn, we capture them so that the next people that come in, when you're not there or you're still there and you might have forgotten, at least we are learning on a continuous basis. Let's capture these things. We can store them. We can store them on Google. We can store them on Microsoft. We can store them on many other platforms that are available out there. And when I say, with all the constraints that we have on the continent, let's treat those as opportunities for innovation. Don't look at them as, oh man, these are limitations. No, how are we going to navigate around them? These are some of the things that we need us as BAs to consider when we build solutions all around. Now, going forward, I believe that we should be building partnerships with organizations such as the International Institute of Business Analysis, the British Computer Society, Project Management International. They all offer business analysis certifications. We also should be partnering with educational institutions to say, man, this is something that needs to be baked into the syllabus somehow. If we do that, and you can imagine a corporate that partners with an institution that offers business analysis, and as they are growing the BA talent within the organization, these ones can make sure that they're following standards and all that. When we should be able to influence such in one way or another. Yeah, BAs, influencers. Who would have thought? Okay. And I say, let us invest in the talent and technology that we require for us to build sustainable solutions for the continent. More so, as we do that, we need to continuously measure and scale the impact that we're doing. Are we doing the right thing? Okay, let's read this. What do we need? And that's where AI can become quite powerful, looking at the data, and you ask it some questions to say, what could I be looking for? What are some gaps? And then you, together with your team, you go and still interrogate the output from the AI because it is very subjective, but it can help you to think of things very fast. And I believe that if we do these things with the partnerships and investing in the talent and technology and continuously measuring the impact and building on it continuously, man, we can see an Africa that we've never even dreamt of, or something that's just a fragment of somebody's imagination. Now, as I wind down on this, I believe that BAs, we are well poised to be able to bring sustainable impact on the continent for a few reasons. Okay. If you consider that we have um, the ability to translate complexity and make it something that's simple for somebody to understand. The fact that we can bring parties together and we can find some common ground or even middle ground if the ground cannot be common. We can understand that people are coming from wherever and they have their own mandates from wherever they came from. And we can work on localizing those things. So we can do things that it seems abstract when this requirement comes in, and we can turn it into some actionable items. We can take it from this thing is too complex, I don't get it, and make sure that it's built around the context on which or around which we want to bring in the service or the product. And because we have the ability to facilitate conversations, we can bridge the big divide between public and private sectors. We do need the private sector because they have a lot of money, okay? And they have this thing called CSI, which is corporate social investment. They have budgets for that. And if we find ways of bridging these two together, you can imagine when we can interpret the language to say, okay, corporate social investment, hey, you have a budget, how can we use it? And we can mitigate risks if you believe that perhaps working with the public sector, government, politicians, there might be corruption, all of that. We can highlight those risks and actually make them apparent for everyone to understand. And I believe that we actually stand at the point whereby we can foster innovation through continuous iteration. See, when you build something like, okay, maybe we need to have a little MVP, minimum viable product. Let's test it out with a small market and see what happens. Okay, let's move it to another area. Let's see what happens. And as we expand, we learn, we build, we iterate on the development, we test, we deploy, and it continues like that. And man, as we do that, we are very well poised to facilitate the co-creation using things like design thinking and even the languages that we speak. You can understand when somebody's saying this, they might be meaning that. And we are very well poised to make sure that we can have solutions, products, services that are sustainable for the African continent and even beyond. So, just to wrap up, remember this: business analysis is not just a technical skill. Mm-mm. So if you think it's a technical skill and you're getting paid because you have the job title of a business analyst, think again. There are people who behave and they have the skills and abilities of a business analyst, but they don't have that job title. So we need to elevate ourselves above that and consider what value do we bring. And I believe that if we apply the business analysis principles, we can design sustainable solutions across the board. And I challenge all of us to get involved. Get involved in your local community. Get involved when government is asking for mentors, when there are career days, you can inspire other people to come learn about business analysis. Get involved in your organization when you see process inefficiencies and you just raise your hand and say, maybe can I help? Get involved when you see that there is something that a BA can do to make things better. Don't just sit back and say, ah, well, this is not my forte. I'll leave it to someone else. I challenge you to get involved in that. And I just want to wrap up here so that I don't take up all your time for today. Thank you so much for giving me the time and listening over to me. And hey, if you want to learn more about the work that I do, the websites are there. And I would appreciate if you can scan the QR code. Hey, give me some input. I'm looking for continuous improvement. So that QR code will lead you to a little site. Takes less than 2 minutes. Just let me know how things went. I appreciate this. Thank you so much for hosting me. I love being at GABAC and wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, Opalaka. The message was very strong and powerful. When you talk about many things happen in Africa and also the way how to deal with this. So amazing, amazing, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andre. Appreciate that. Not sure if there are any
Lucky
questions
and
that.
Sylvie.
Hi, okay, just because I have a question, like I want to see because last time I saw, I say I want to see, I want to know. Last time I saw Oupa, there was no Achille. I hope that I'm pronouncing it, pronounce it correctly.
Yes,
There
100%.
was
It's
no Achille.
Akili.
So I want to know about Achille. What is Achille? Is it welcome? What is it? What is it about? Don't forget, I want to know everything. Don't hide everything. Just spread the
No
word,
problem.
share it, let us know. We want to know.
I will tell you. Okay. So Akili is a Swahili word. If there's anyone here from East Africa, do not murder me. I was born in South Africa. Okay. So Akili is a Swahili word, and it carries the essence of not just knowledge, but wisdom, having tact in certain situations, knowing when to speak, when not to speak. So it's like wisdom overall. And I chose the name because I was like, oh my, I'm going to be an independent consultant. All right. Where in the world do I start? What do I even call myself? Do I call myself by my name? And then I thought, no, maybe let me just have a company name in case someday in the future it gets valuated at billions and somebody wants to buy it. Then they're not buying my name, Oupa Laka. They'd rather buy the company as it is. So yeah, so I do consulting, business analysis primarily, but I do also some coaching and mentoring. That's why I have two websites there. So the Akili.Africa is the coaching website. So you can go visit it. You will see my face there. If you want to learn a little bit about personal coaching, etc., there are some things that you can also purchase there, and there are some freebies that you can download when you go to Akili.Africa. But when you go to Akili.Consulting, that's where now you start seeing the kind of services that I'm offering: business analysis, whether it's strategy, whether it's project, whatever the case may be. I do coaching and mentoring, and I also speak at conferences if you want to book me. And so, yeah, that's the essence of what Akili is.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me and with all the audience. And yes, I will let Andre take over. Goodbye, Andre. Going down.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you, Opa. Thank you.